hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a randomly generated hypnosis session using different variables like nouns and emotions, even a location somewhere in the world, which I don't know where it's going to be yet, and a randomly generated hypnotic language pattern. So I'm going to get straight into it. For those watching on YouTube, will see me randomly generate these words. Where are we? Here we go. So the location is Harbin in China. Harbin, or Harbin, it looks like it's pronounced, is the capital of the Heilongjiang province in northeast China. The city is notable for its Russian influence and the yearly International Ice and Snow Sculpture Festival. So, giving it the unofficial title of Ice City. So we might use ice sculptures. There's a dragon tower in there as well. So we're going to use some elements of that. The random word generator. Let's see what comes up here. Okay, we have soprano, settle, and definition. So soprano, I'm not very musical, but my limited understanding, I believe it is a singer that can sing at a particular pitch. I could be wrong here, but a soprano, I think, is like an opera singer. The next word is settle, and I mean, a few different meanings of settle. I think the meaning that comes to mind is when you accept a compromise or you accept something that might be not to your ideal, but you settle at a negotiated compromise. But it also means to settle, to stay in one place. If you think of the early settlers, they would stay rather than, roam and, some of those many like nomadic kind of cultures that kind of move around a lot. And then you've got people that settle, they stay in one location. And then the final word is definition. Definition, again, two meanings immediately come to mind here. One is the quality at which you see something. So you've got high definition that's used a lot in, let's say, screens that you might see. So a TV screen or a cinema screen or a phone screen is high definition. But equally, the description or the meaning related to a word will have a definition. So I'm going to take those nouns, those words, and fuse them into this hypnosis session. And then we're going to generate two random emotions, right? Ecstasy's come up too many times, so I'm going to click that again, right? So we've got anticipation and sadness. Anticipation, so waiting for something that hasn't happened yet, and sadness, generally considered to be the opposite of happiness, so a sad feeling. And sadness can stem from many different causes. It can stem from loss. It can stem from just an evaluation that, you're not in a good place or happy with what you have. So generally it's a feeling, a low energy feeling of being upset. So we're going to use that in this hypnosis session to create what is designed to be an empowering hypnosis session. The final ingredient of this random hypnosis session is going to be a hypnotic language card. This is the Jack of Spades and the Mike Mendel hypnotic language cards, and it is tag questions. Can you not, or does it not? And this, I'm going to read the definition on here. The tag question is a peculiar language pattern. we are used to questions being formulated in a very straightforward manner. But when we put a question at the end of a sentence, it becomes difficult for our minds to disagree. Does it not? And that does it not there is the example of the very point that was being made there. Lots of different tag questions. So you've got can you not? Does it not? Do you not agree? And generally these tag questions look like they're stated in the negative. So rather than would you agree, it would be would you disagree? Does it not? Rather than do you agree? So stated in the negative. So I'm going to use that as part of this hypnosis session based in the Ice City in China, using those nouns like soprano, settle, and definition, the words of anticipation and sadness. And let's see what hypnosis session comes up. I'm always fascinated because when I start doing this, I have no idea exactly how it's going to end up. I'm just kind of almost a passenger on this, as you are. So again, if you find these randomly generated sessions, if you're watching on YouTube, drop me a comment. If you are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you can't really give comments on that kind of stuff, but you can drop me an email, adam@adamcox.co.uk. Let me know what you think. It's always good to have that feedback loop. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation, and as you exhale, just get a sense that any stress, tension or worries are leaving your body in your outward breath. So as you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to get a sense of going deeper and deeper, relaxed. On the next inward breath in, breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, if it's safe to do so, allow your eyelids to close, and in closing, you can feel deeper, relaxed. Can you not? Breathing in and breathing out, and I want you to play a game in your mind. Imagine that your mind has a superpower, that you can go anywhere in the world just by thinking about it. Many years ago in the 1960s, the intelligence agencies all around the world, the Russians, the Americans, were investigating a principle known as astral projection. They had highly trained individuals float through the world to see if they could spy on different locations, not in reality, but within their mind. And I wonder what it would be like for you to experience astral projection. Imagine floating up out of your body, and imagine what it would be like to be like a superhero, like Superman, and just be able to fly anywhere in the world. And I want you to visit a city in China known as the Ice City, a city known as Harbin. I want you to imagine flying over mountains and oceans, perhaps even deserts, all the way to Harbin in China. And I want you to imagine you're going to Harbin in China in winter. Not only can you project yourself through space, I want you to imagine you can project yourself through time as well that you're going all the way to Harbin, the ice city, in winter. And I want you to imagine you are in the main square in this city, surrounded by the Dragon Temple, impressive buildings. But I want you to imagine that you are there in the middle of a festival of ice and snow sculptures. Imagine being surrounded by the most impressive sculptures made of ice. Imagine you're walking around this square, and maybe it's daylight, maybe it's nighttime. No matter what the time is, imagine seeing these impressive sculptures of animals or people made of solid blocks of ice, carefully carved into intricate sculptures. And as you wander around that square, I want you to imagine touching the ice sculptures and feeling the coldness on the tips of your fingers. Isn't it strange how you can feel a sensation like warmth or coldness just in your imagination? And reach out and touch it, feeling that cold. Does it not give you a strange sensation of how you're able to be somewhere else just in your imagination? I want you to imagine that you're in this square at this time, and I want you to give a definition to your requirement for sadness. Sadness is a subjective emotional state, but I wonder what your definition is for sadness. What has to happen in order for you to feel sad? And I want you to entertain the idea that sadness requires effort, does it not? And if it requires effort to create sadness, you can feel something else, can you not? And as you entertain this idea that there is a recipe to your sadness, just like any recipe, if you change the ingredients, you change the result. And I want you to think of a time that you felt that sadness. And then imagine what you had to do to create that sadness. Maybe you had to evaluate that someone had wronged you in some way. Maybe you had to evaluate that something you wanted was never going to happen. Maybe it was an evaluation. Maybe it was inner dialogue. Maybe your energy levels were low for some reason. But entertain the idea that your sadness has a structure similar to these ice sculptures. And I want you to imagine that each of these ice sculptures around you represents things that cause you sadness. Hurtful words, stressful events. And I want you to imagine that you have a powerful operatic voice of a soprano. And I want you to imagine that you're not going to settle for a life of unhappiness. You have bigger aspirations, bigger goals. For you, once you destroy the structure of your unhappiness, your sadness, stands to reason that you can anticipate more happiness, can you not? And I want you to imagine that you've got the most powerful soprano voice that has ever existed. This is just in your imagination anyway. Each of these ice sculptures represents something that happens frequently, or at least more than once, as a cause of your sadness. And I want you to imagine standing in front of that ice sculpture, the first one, and imagine singing at the top of your lungs in that soprano voice at that ice sculpture that represents a cause of your sadness, and the resonance of your voice shatters the ice sculpture into a million pieces. And as it happens, I want you to imagine that one cause of sadness is no longer there, because when an ice sculpture is shattered, it can't fuse back again. And then imagine standing in front of another ice sculpture. Imagine touching it, feeling the cold, seeing the shape. Is it an object, an animal? You decide what it is. And maybe the shape of the ice sculpture resembles a clue as to what is an ingredient for your sadness. And then at the top of your lungs, imagine using that soprano operatic voice to again shatter that ice sculpture into a million pieces. And as you do so, again, you feel that you are more in control of your life, more in control of your emotions. And then move to the next ice sculpture. See it in the shape, and now imagine almost seeing a clue as to the cause of your sadness as a hologram inside the ice sculpture. You can see it, can you not? And then imagine feeling that soprano voice leaving your throat, your chest, your mouth, aiming it almost like a shotgun at this ice sculpture that represents a cause of your sadness, and again, shattering it into a million pieces. And I want you to get a sense that already you're feeling better, knowing that whenever you experience sadness in your life, you can come back to this ice city and see the sadness, the cause of the sadness, the trigger of the sadness as an ice sculpture. Decide that you won't settle for sadness in your life, and use that soprano voice to shatter these ice sculptures, these representations of your sadness, into a million pieces, and immediately notice that the sadness lifts. You feel stronger, more resourceful. And I want you to tap into that feeling of anticipation. An anticipation almost based on the idea that if there is less sadness in your life, then the future has to have more happiness. And what is optimism if it isn't an anticipation of more good things in the future and less bad things, more happiness and less sadness? And wouldn't it be good to have a future where you can anticipate happiness? It's good to anticipate happiness, is it not? And as you anticipate that feeling of happiness, that feeling of positivity for the future, you can feel a sensation inside you where you feel more positive, more optimistic, more confident, can you not? Because when one thing goes down, something else counters. As sadness decreases, happiness increases. If you anticipate less sadness, you're simultaneously anticipating more happiness. Look around this square and notice that most of the ice sculptures are all gone now, shattered into a million pieces in this city of ice in China. And then use your powers of astral projection to find your way all the way back to your own body, firmly in the present. And it feels good to be back in your body, does it not? And it feels even better to feel that sadness has decreased and happiness has increased, doesn't it? And as it starts to feel good, you can feel good, knowing that very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, and you will feel more positive, more confident, more resourceful. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. As I now count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.